I don't have enough money for flood protection.
Flood Protection Secrets, the podcast to the protection against heavy rain and flooding by Dr. Flood, Andreas Klippa.
So the big challenge is, how can house owners like you and me get a flood-free home? How can business managers like you and me get a flood-free company? And how can public servants provide flood-free critical infrastructure and livable cities?
Flood Protection Secrets, the podcast by Dr. Flood, Andreas Klippa. This podcast is for foresighted and proactive people who do not want to shovel the muddy water out of their room while standing in the midst of the disaster.
Therefore, those who design and plan, the architects and engineers, need to construct such buildings and cities, and that even when the entire environment is completely flooded. That is a challenge, and this podcast will give the answers.
Flood Protection Secrets, the podcast by Dr. Flood, Andreas Klippa.
Last time I talked about how to get cheap flood barriers. They are so attractive. And I explained the difference between the so-called cheap ones, plastic barriers. No, I didn't talk about that. But anyway, all those who that I don't consider as a serious flood barrier when it comes to the protection of your inventory, of your building, of your environment, of your garden, of your warehouse, or for the government, the protection of the infrastructure, critical infrastructure, hospitals, for instance, metro, airports, police stations, firefighter stations, and public libraries, universities, schools, and so on and so forth. But today I want to talk about, I don't have enough money for flood protection, so but I know how to reduce the investment. And that is what I want to share with you. I want to explain some ways out of the cost maze. And if you simply don't have the budget, what can happen? Sometimes I also don't have the budget for some things. No? So I don't have the budget to fly to the moon. I don't have the budget to fly to perhaps to the space station. I don't have the budget to fly with an own helicopter, but I can afford to purchase a ticket to fly with an airplane from A to B, perhaps from Germany. I'm currently in Frankfurt, close to Frankfurt in Germany, while I'm recording this podcast. So I can fly from Frankfurt to Vienna in Austria, the beautiful Vienna. That is what I can afford, but not to fly to the moon. At least I can appreciate a little bit the feeling of flying. Yeah. So, but that is not the topic. We talk about flood protection, and that is quite different. So please imagine the following situation. You're at home in your bedroom, you lay in your bed, and you wake up on Monday morning. I just quickly repeat what I said in the previous episode. So you don't feel well, you get a cold and a cough, you feel seriously sick, and then you really go to the doctor. Normally with a cold you don't go to the doctor, but you feel seriously sick and you're afraid about your lungs. So the doctor is examining your body, you get a prescription for the pharmacy, you get your medicine, you apply the medication, stay at home, wait until you are healed. Fine. And now, if you are not in the position to pay for the best medical treatment because the doctor is telling you can get an infusion, you just come 5 consecutive days to him, you pay, that happened to me one time. I had to go there 3 times, and that was 20 years ago. I think at this time I had to pay €50 for one treatment, and then indeed you get tons of minerals and vitamins, and you don't feel sick anymore. And so it's worth it to do it, but not everybody can afford. By the way, today, I think nowadays, the price at least has doubled. I don't think that it is still 50 euro anymore. So, if you are not in the position to pay for the best medical treatment, you can at least get one treatment that is a little bit cheaper and that you can afford. So the treatment might then take a little longer until you are cured. However, I explained before, and I just want to repeat it because it is so important, that doesn't work for flood protection. So when it comes to flood protection, the protection must work 100%. And especially the longer the heavy rain or flooding of the neighborhood lasts, the greater is the risk of being flooded and losing everything. When it comes to flood protection, I said, just a quick repetition, there are 3 important pieces of advice you should bear in mind. Advice number 1, always start with a planning, project planning, engineering assessment, or technical inspection, because this money is well spent, and as a result, you will receive valuable information about outcome A, the right technology, outcome B, the necessary civil works, outcome C, the design sketches. Because if you don't have how can you install things, especially when you work with a contractor? Outcome D, your real budget, without surprises at the end. I call it the no surprise budget. And my advice too was that you only choose a company that has a proven track record of working with certified products. Advice C, don't just work with sales representatives. They have no idea about flood protection. They usually sell many other products. They only want to sell you their product and do not consider other scenarios or options. Our sales representatives always work together with us. That is what I mean. At this moment, the engineering knowledge comes in. The architectural understanding comes in. And you understand that quality and flood protection is vital for you, but it comes at a price. And that's the topic today. You also know that your budget does not allow you to invest the entire amount immediately. That can be. Yes, you know that the damage caused by a flood is much, much higher. But how are you supposed to finance it? That's a problem. And here comes the solution. I have 3 major solutions I want to offer to you. The first is you consider a bank loan for a house or building improvement. In particular for homeowners. A company normally might afford it, but if they also don't have the budget right now because they have a lot of other expenses, they might also consider to get a bank loan, what normally should not be the problem for a company. So ask your bank, include the flood experts to convince your bank. That is what I always offer. That is, don't do that on your own, because for a banker, it is quite new that somebody is approaching to him, to her, and asks for a bank loan for flood protection. They don't know flood protection. Even a lot of architects don't know about that. I'm always surprised when I talk to these people how little the knowledge is. I don't complain about that. It is a simple fact, because flood protection became serious and important during the last 10 years. I mean, the flood barriers were invented, the demounted flood barriers were invented by R.S. Stepanek KG in Germany in 1990. So that is a little bit more than 10 years. It's 35 years already. But a couple of years ago, not many people were discussing flood protection. So that means the person at the bank might not be aware about what you are talking about. So include a flood expert to convince your bank, and then get necessary documents from the flood experts for your bank. So ask your bank, include a flood expert to convince your bank, and get necessary documents from the flood expert for your bank. By the way, you will only get it after having done a planning. I can already anticipate that. What I mentioned before, that was one of my 3 advices. This planning you definitely need. A simple technical inspection, for instance, that can be done within 1 day in the Philippines, if we only have land travel abroad, normally we always calculate one week because of 4 days, 4 to 5 days, because it includes all the preparation of the output, of the outcomes. What in the Philippines we normally do at home in our offices, but when we travel abroad, then it is more convenient to discuss that on site with a customer and come up with a solution immediately, because the distance is too long. It doesn't make any sense to travel twice. So you need documents, and with these documents, you might get your loan. That was solution number 1. And how about solution number 2? Number 2 is a temporarily reduced height of flood protection. What is that? Installation of the necessary side sections, side channels, the middle supports or corner supports for the mounted flood barriers with intermediate installation, welded parts and less barriers. So I have to translate it for you. If you have a demountable flood barriers in front of your, let me say in front of your garage, and the garage is 5 meters wide, then you need one middle support in the middle, and you have one side channel at the left side and one side channel at the right side. And then you put in the demountable flood barriers. At a height of 1.20 meter protection height, you need 4 barriers, each 300 millimeters high. That means you have 2 sections, one middle support in the middle of your garage, and you fill in 4 demountable flood barriers at the left side and 4 demountable flood barriers at the right side. So each 2.50 meters long. That gives you the 5 meters, more or less. But if you are not able to provide the whole money for it, why don't you start to order only flood barriers up to 600 millimeters height? You save 50% of the investment for the aluminum flood barriers. You can buy and install the remaining barriers next year. You may not be 100% protected, but you will still have 50% protection against heavy rain and flooding. That reduces your investment considerably. And how does it work with the side channels at the left and the right side and this middle support that I mentioned? Because you split the 5 meters into 2 parts of 2.5 meters. You cannot, unfortunately, you cannot install 600 millimeters and then after 1 year you take them out and you install a 1.20 meter. You can do that, but that is too expensive because all this effort for taking out, replacing, etc. Costs too much. Then you can immediately invest in the 1.20 meter height side channels and middle support. That means you install these side channels and this one middle support at the definite height of 1.20 meter, but the aluminum beams, flood barriers, you reduce by 50%. You only go up to 600 millimeters. The only thing that you need is you have to tell it to us, and then we provide a provision. We weld some parts that we can install it and can fix it and compress the barriers at a height of 600 and not only at a height of 1.20 meter. That's the only thing. So that is the temporarily reduced height of flood protection that saves you 50% of the investment of the flood barriers. Yeah. I could not avoid to push this button. And solution number 3 is choose selective temporary flood protection. What is that? Ask for a technical inspection that shall reveal scenarios to identify selected entrances or options to reduce the investment. I mentioned already for the bank loan that you need an inspection. You need documents to help convince your banker. So ask for technical inspection, even if you don't consider a bank loan. Always ask for that and consider another solution, because very often that is what I can tell you about our daily communication with inquiries, with customers, with prospects. Sometimes they watched a video in the internet and then they tell us, I want exactly that. But very often it doesn't make any sense because they don't have the knowledge that we have. I always offer the top 14 flood barriers in the world. That means you can choose one of them. But which, that will be decided at the end of a technical inspection. That is very difficult to decide when you have an online meeting or you send an email or 3 photos or something. And that can reveal another scenario. It can be that perhaps some entrances can be spared, can be not protected at the moment because it doesn't make any sense, or you can take the risk. That reduces the investment. The selective temporary flood protection can be permanent or only temporary. That means as soon as an additional budget is available, the installation can be continued. That means what you do is if you have 10 entrances at your building, you have a side entrances, you have a back door, you have a second small building, perhaps a garden house or whatever, and you have a garage with a side door. So perhaps we talk about 10 entrances. And then you say, okay, I don't have the money for everything, bank loan I don't want, and I want to be best protected because my main house needs to be protected first. Then protect the main house. Don't protect the garden house for the moment. And if heavy rain is announced, then empty the garden house, the blockhouse or whatever there is. Get the barbecue from the garden, put it inside the house, empty your garden. Yes, you might lose all the flourishing flowers and the beautiful garden might be destroyed, but your house will not be destroyed. It will be protected, and as well as the garage. Or you only protect the 600 millimeters of the garage. And you say, okay, better than nothing, and you go for the remaining 600 until you reach the 1.20 meter in 1 year. So all these things are possible. So the consequences, I give you some consequences and the summary. I mentioned it already. At the end of this flood protection secrets episode today, number 1 is a bank loan. The bank loan is perfect and allows you to protect your building and premises by 100% against the danger of destruction of heavy rain and flooding immediately. Number 2, temporarily reduced height of flood protection reduces your flood protection. So, but at the same time, it's only temporary because next year you can extend the height. That was my example from the garage. Instead of protecting it by up to 1.20 meter, you go for 600 first. But that requires additional welding parts. You cannot order 600 and then later you decide I increase up to 1.20 meter. You can do that, but then we have to remove the side channels and replace the middle support. The barriers you can keep, and you just add more barriers. But that is additional cost. I don't recommend that. And solution number 3 was the selective temporary flood protection. Means you select the entrances with priority that will be protected. And that can be permanent or only temporary. And as soon as additional budget is available, the installation can be continued. Right? Isn't that great? I mean, these are 3 ways really to get your flood protection. Perhaps it's not perfect, but it protects you in a good way. And when I say it is not perfect, it does not mean that the barriers are not working perfectly. They work perfectly. I mentioned that in my introduction. Because we work with certified products and they are tested. For instance, some of them are tested by the world's biggest insurance company for commercial and industrial buildings, FM Global in Rhode Island, USA. And they make tests 72 hours, leak tests, even tests at low temperature, at high temperature. The Anham flip-up flood barrier, by the way, is tested at 735 degrees Celsius with burning heptane. My gosh, that is really high. Sometimes when the people in the Middle East ask me, oh, we have temperatures 50, 60 degrees in sunlight, will your barriers work? Then I'm smiling. I say, okay, I tell you, this flip-up flat barrier was tested at 735 degrees Celsius. What do you do not need to be afraid. And then they are smiling as well. So, that is, of course, serious. So, my advice, my golden nugget for today, when it comes to flood protection, there is an important advice you should bear in mind. That is, start with a planning. Start with a planning, with serious and thorough planning, whether it is called project planning, engineering assessment, or technical inspection. And once again, this money is really well spent. As a result, you will receive information about outcome A, the right technology, outcome B, the necessary civil works, and outcome C, the design sketches, because that is what you need to know that you can work with your contractor, or you just start a tender. And outcome D, your real budget without surprises at the end. The real budget, and not that you start purchasing some barriers you have seen in the internet. Even worse, you purchase these 90 millimeter thick ones instead of the real 57 millimeters. That was my example from, I think I explained that in the last episode, in the last episode, how to get cheap flood barriers. And then you are definitely sure that you have not to invest twice and that the barriers are working and you don't get flooded. Then your expenses were for nothing and all your hard-earned budget or all your hard-earned money is gone. Yes, it's the end already of this episode. If you want to know more about it, please contact me directly. And if this flood protection episode has inspired you to rethink your approach to flood protection, stay tuned for more episodes like this. And don't forget to subscribe for more insights from the world of flood protection. For personal guidance, reach out to us or to me. My name is Andreas Klippe. Stay safe and flood free. I wish and hope for you that you make the right decisions when it comes to your personal flood protection. And if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to this podcast channel if you haven't already. Now it only remains for me to wish you a good day. Do something with it. Maybe until the next podcast episode. I would be very happy. See you then. As always, stay safe and flood free. Your Andreas Klippe and the whole Flood Experts team.
That's it again with a new episode of Flood Protection Secrets, the podcast by Dr. Flood Andreas Klippe, German engineer, book author, and head of the Flood Experts. What can Dr. Flood Andreas Klippe protect for you? Anytime? Worldwide? Contact us or just click through to www.thefloodexperts.de/bonus. Detailed engineering, German quality, safe, flood protection secrets, the secrets you'll want to unfold.
Don't forget, you're only one flood barrier away.
Subscribe to the season, and you'll never be late for an episode.